Alle zusammen guten Tag and welcome to Pilbology. Today's video is going to be about time and actually how we use it, not just of telling the time, but actually how you practically use the time in conversation and how you express time, in particular in the past tense, to tie in with what we've been doing recently. So, wie spät ist es? Literally means how late is it? But obviously it means what's the time. So as a quick revision, in German, you have, if we have a look at our little clock here, you can see this is midday, 3, 6, 9. Anything on this side of the clock is going to be past, as in we would say half past. Past or after in German is nach. So, for example, if you want to say 5 past 3, you would say 5 nach 3. Similarly, as we would say quarter past or quarter to, the word for quarter in German is Viertel. Make sure you've got a capital V. Viertel. So it would be Viertel nach 2 or Viertel nach 3. And the same applies on this side. So Viertel vor, Viertel nach. Quarter to, quarter past. As in many other languages, the only slight difference is when it comes to saying half past. If we take this worksheet as an example, we can see that 4:30 is in fact not halb vier, which would be the way that we would say it in English. It's actually halb fünf, because you are halfway to. Okay, so by saying or by writing halb fünf, or you can actually write it out properly, halb fünf. So that's one way of doing it. The other way, of course, which is worth noticing, is if we take the same time, I realize this has moved now, if we take the same time as 4:30 of saying es ist, it is, 4 Uhr 30. Okay, or written out 4 Uhr 30. So literally 4 o'clock 30, 4 Uhr 30. Both work, both are used equally the same amount, so es ist 4 Uhr 30 or es ist halb 5 for the purposes of this particular worksheet. These examples, it's halb 5. So if you have a look down as we go through, you have 5 nach 6, 5 past 6, 20 nach 12, 25 nach 5 und 45 nach 2. Okay, the rest I'm sure you can figure out. Obviously, there's 2 other halbs thrown in here. So it's not half 7, it's actually half 2 8 and half 2 11. Right. Now, the purposes of these phrases here are, well, there are 2 purposes. Number 1, what we're going to be looking at is obviously the use of the past tense. All of these words over here are in fact in the past tense. So these are what are called the past participles. Okay, and as you will already know, some of them will use haben and some of them will use sein. Remind yourself of the rule of when you use haben and remind yourself of the rule of when you use sein. Do that now. The second point is to make sure really that you've understood the word order, firstly and understood the time, I suppose, but also the word order when it comes to putting times in a sentence. So, word order. So let's look at a couple of examples. We've got the first one, which I've highlighted in blue. Was hast du gestern 7:30 Uhr gemacht? Or 7:30 gemacht. 7:30 habe ich gelesen. Okay, so one thing you'll notice about this word or is when you start the phrase excuse me, when you start a sentence with a time phrase, so for example, at 8:30, or tomorrow, or yesterday, or 3 weeks ago, okay? If it's a time phrase, it's in this case an adverbial phrase as a time phrase, you must swap the subject and the verb. Okay? So normally if you wanted to say I read, you would have to say ich habe gelesen. But if it's at a specific time, 7:30, habe ich gelesen. So anytime you're really putting information before the subject and the verb, you must switch them around. Okay, so so bit of jiggery-pokery with the sentences, but so what do I now expect you to do with these on downwards? You have to formulate a question using number 1 as an example. So, was hast du gestern 7:30 Uhr gemacht? Well, or 7:30 gemacht. Well, you would then need to formulate the same question, but for 9:45, 11:15, 12:55, 14:20, or 2:20, 3:30, and 4:10, and 6:45. Okay, so what did you do at that time? Was hast du gestern gemacht? Now, remember that word order. Look at it. Was hast du gestern? What did you do yesterday? At 7:30. Obviously, remembering always that the past participle needs to go at the end of the sentence. Okay, at the end of the question. So, formulate those questions then for all of these, and in order to answer them, we're practicing word order. So, for example, we'll do number 2 together. You could either say 2:45 or 9:45. So you could say 9:45 or 4:15. So 4:15 being 2:45. So let's go with 4:15. 10:15 habe ich. Now I need to pick something out of here. Habe ich Hausaufgaben gemacht? So pick gemacht. Habe ich Hausaufgaben gemacht? Now, in order to help you formulate these sentences, I would refer, if you're able to use the Logo 2 book, for those of you with a Logo 2, or Logo 2, that would be page 15, Seite 15. In the bottom right, you have a green table, which will give you a number of activities, okay, which then go together with these past participles. For example, 11:15 bin ich ins Kino gegangen. Okay, so then you could tick off gegangen. At another time habe ich fern gesehen. At another time habe ich meine Hausaufgaben gemacht. Okay, so use those as a template. You should also be able to find the other ones in there, okay, within the chapter. So, a slightly longer video today, but just to make sure we're really understanding the basics of the time and then how to use them in context. Okay, so obviously any questions, you know you can write in your whisk. So write, summarize, and question, and good luck. Viel Spaß.